What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Crew 2. And in this video, I'm going to take a look at the Mercedes-Benz AMG GT3 after the recent handling update. I do want to take a look at most of these touring vehicles after this to really see how they're actually going to be now. We all do know that the handling update is definitely going to make a difference with a lot of these cars. I really do feel like we're also going to see a different mix-up in the meta as well, which I do think everybody probably wants though. But taking a look at the GT3 here, guys, is going to be one of those cars I really haven't used that much in the past, though. I feel like this is most likely going to be a big case with many of the cars on this game, though, because a lot of the cars normally fall into a pit and a lot of players most likely don't use them anymore. Now, I do have a feeling this is most likely going to start changing soon, though, because now we have a lot of cars that can actually handle very well, and they're also all basically going to have a very similar top speed. So the Mercedes AMG GT3 here is going to do around 256 miles per hour. I did notice after testing out many of the touring cars on the Crew 2 that many of them are definitely very similar to their overall top speed, which I would say is going to make them very interesting because now we actually can search for a car that might actually do better when it comes to their overall handling and actual acceleration speed as well. I noticed, guys, just because a car is going to have a high top speed is not necessarily going to make it the best overall car in that one class though, unless we look at something like the Bugatti Supersport 300 Plus, which even then, I noticed some of the other cars are actually going to be better on some of these smaller tracks though, so the more you actually drive some of these cars in the touring car category, I would say we're most likely going to find a lot of strengths and or weaknesses with each vehicle, and I would say every car is probably going to shine in their own way in certain areas. Now, one thing about the GT3, guys, I love the way this car actually handles now. Even compared to before, I would say this thing is definitely going to be night and day better. This thing really does feel planted to the ground around every corner. And one thing I also noticed right off the bat is because this car does handle better, I also found myself going a lot faster around corners as well. So one thing I did notice about the GT3, guys, I might test this out with other vehicles now as well in this category, is the fact that let's say you're used to going around a turn in like 3rd or 4th gear, I would actually say you could probably get around that corner in the AMG now in probably 5th gear, at least a gear higher than before. And I noticed you can actually push the car a lot more than you probably thought you could have. I was actually kind of surprised with how fast I was getting around the corners, and the fact that I was able to actually go up one gear was honestly pretty awesome. This will definitely help tremendously with track times and actually doing better in summits. If you guys did want to test out one of these oddball vehicles like the GT3, you will now easily be able to use something like the AMG GT3 in basically any of the summits. I really do love the fact that they actually made the touring cars a lot better now. If I had to guess, I would say a lot of players are most likely tired of seeing like the same 2 or 3 cars in one class, being used basically more than everything else. Now, one thing I do have to admit, guys, I would probably say that's not going to change, though. I do think a lot of these cars are probably going to remain being some of the best touring cars in the Crew 2, which I would probably say is not a bad thing, but at least now we can actually use something like the GT3 and still compete in summits and or get into platinum. I really do think this is greatly going to mix up the overall gameplay on the game as well. I really do think that's probably going to be needed, and the fact that the GT3 is also a lot better in corners, and I really do feel like you can actually be much faster with this car in corners as well, which from the testing I have done, I do think this AMG is going to be much better than how it was before, which I really do think is going to make a lot more players actually try this thing out. Now, one thing I do have to say as well, guys, is even though all the cars are also going to be a lot better, do keep in mind if you guys do actually do the touring car events, I also noticed a lot of the AI are also going to be a lot faster. A lot of players have been noticing this as well in the Alpha GP category, so if you guys have been noticing some of the AI in the touring car races being kind of annoying, that's most likely going to be due to the fact that they're also going to be handling better as well. And with these cars having better handling and or better cornering ability, I would say that's also going to make them slightly faster in some areas as well, making a lot of these events on Ace definitely a lot more interesting. But overall, guys, the AMG GT3 is not only going to be a lot better than it was, I really do think this car is also going to be a great competitor for summits and or just racing in general. I do want to know what you guys think about this car in the comments below, and here are my updated settings on the AMG GT3.